Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Summary channel. In this video, we'll give you an easy and quick rundown of another critically acclaimed film. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give the video a like if you enjoyed it.
David Kim's daughter Margot goes missing, and he embarks on a desperate search to find her. With no leads from the police investigation, David turns to Margot's laptop to uncover any possible clues to her whereabouts. In a race against time, David traces his daughter's digital footprints in a hypermodern thriller that explores the secrets kept in our technology life. If you want to know this story, follow the video. The movie begins by showing the Kim family recording their life through photos and videos. David Kim and his wife Pam like to commemorate important dates in their daughter Margot's life as she grows up. However, while Margot excels in her studies and piano lessons, Pam's health declines due to cancer. The Kim family schedules Pam's return home, but she is unable to leave the hospital bed and passes away in 2015. Time passes, and the Kim family continues without their mother, while Margot goes off to college. One day, David calls Margot to scold her for not taking out the trash. Margot apologizes and promises to take out the trash, but she informs him that she will be late coming home from a study group at a friend's house and quickly hangs up. David's brother Peter asks for a video call to get the recipe for Pam's kimchi stew. David notices a pot of marijuana on the table, but when Peter sees that David is about to start an argument, he asks if David and Margot are doing okay. David avoids the conversation, sends the requested recipe, and ends the video call. During the night, David receives 2 phone calls and a video call from Margot, but he doesn't answer because he is asleep. The next morning, David calls his daughter, but she doesn't answer his calls. Later at work, he tries to send messages and finds it strange that she hasn't responded, thinking that she is angry. David sees that Margot hasn't taken out the trash yet and hasn't taken her notebook to college, so he leaves her a voicemail. He remembers that Margot has a piano lesson and calls her teacher, but he finds out that even though he pays for her lessons, they were canceled 6 months ago. He then calls the college and discovers that she did not attend class, so he decides to call his brother. Peter finds the situation strange and tries to reassure David, telling him to call Margot's friends. David tried to look at Margot's social media accounts, but they were private, so he had to search for her friends' contacts in Pam's old address book. He spoke to Isaac's mother, a childhood friend of Margot, who told him they had planned to go camping in the mountains, where there was no cell phone signal. The next day, Isaac called David and said that Margot had not responded to the invitation to go camping. David called the police and reported his daughter missing, and he met Rosemary Vic, the detective assigned to the case. Vic was a decorated investigator, recognized as a volunteer, and founder of a rehabilitation clinic for ex-convicts. She also claimed to be a mother and reassured David, asking him to look into the type of people his daughter had been talking to help with the investigation. Using Margot's notebook, David restored her social media passwords and called her friends, who were all busy the night she disappeared. By using Margot's notebook, David was able to learn more about her social life and uncover that she was isolated, had almost no real friends, and was lonely. Peter offered to help his brother and suggested he also search for Margot's offline contacts. David spoke to Abigail, the classmate who hosted the study group at her house on the night Margot disappeared. Abigail said that Margot left her house early, and they were not close friends, but she mentioned that Margot used a lot of an app called Tumblr. Vic showed David surveillance footage of Margot filling up her car and leaving alone towards the east of the city. She then asked David to find out more about her daughter's behaviors. David discovered that Margot had been collecting payments from her piano lessons and recently transferred all of it to the account of a deactivated user. He found the profile of Derek, a guy who harassed Margot in her social media photos, but he confirmed that Derek was busy on the day she went missing. Vic told David that Margot used the money from a secret account to pay a forger and change her driving license identity. She said that hiding bank transfers is common for money laundering and the narcotics market. Vic concluded that David should consider the possibility of Margot running away from home. David accessed Margot's UCast account and watched her video streams. One of the most frequent contacts was Hannah, a waitress with the username Fish and Chips, who also had a mother suffering from cancer. Vic gets in touch and says that neither Fish and Chips nor any other UCast profile had any real contact with Margot. David laments not having gotten to know his daughter, and Vic tries to relieve him of the feeling of guilt. Later, he finds a video of his daughter at a lake where she says it's her favorite spot, and discovers that it's located on the east side of the city. David leaves in the middle of the night to go to the lake and informs Vic after finding Margot's Pokemon keychain there. The next day, TV stations were covering the discovery of Margot's car, which was being removed from Barbosa Lake. Margot was not in the car, but there was an envelope of money and traces of blood on the passenger seat, suggesting a physical altercation. Vic makes a statement and officially declares the case a kidnapping. She assembled search teams and mapped out locations that had not yet been searched. Authorities and volunteers search for Margot, and the news covers the fourth day of the young woman's disappearance. The Margot case reaches trending topics, and public opinion weighs in on the envelope of money, the theory of the young woman running away from home, and even blames her father. Margot's fake friends also appear at this point to mobilize the search for their missing best friend. One of them, Derek, jokes online, saying that Margot is with him and that the money was for him, her pimp. Vic scolds David and tells him to stay away from the investigation after he broke Derek's jaw and exposed himself as a false vigilante in public. David receives a funeral offer by email, but responds by saying that Margot is not dead. Later, David observes the interior photos of Margot's car and sees Peter's coat inside. Then he sees secret messages between Margot and Peter, arranging meetings and saying that he would kill them if he knew what they were doing. Later, David installs hidden cameras around Peter's house and joins him to talk about his daughter to gather evidence. David reads the suspicious messages to his brother and loses control. The two fight until Peter confesses that he was getting marijuana for Margot. Peter explains that Margot needed to have fun, talk, and confide in someone trustworthy about the loss of her mother, but David always avoided this subject. He mentions that David didn't even know Margot's piano lessons always made her sad by reminding her of her mother. Vic informs David that they have found Margot's killer. After being missing for 5 days, Margot is declared dead following the confession of Randy Kartoff, a former inmate who raped and killed her before committing suicide. Vic appears in public to confirm that Kartoff's DNA matches the one found at the crime scenes around the lake. It is Margot's funeral day. David cannot accept the loss of his daughter, and when he uploads her photos to the funeral home that contacted him, he discovers something suspicious. The funeral home's advertisement photo is the same as Hannah's, the waitress who used the nickname Fish and Chips and spoke with his daughter at UCast. David discovers that Fish and Chips was a fake using photos of a commercial image bank model. He calls Vic, but she doesn't answer, so he calls the police and finds out that she wasn't assigned to the case but had applied for it instead. After learning that Vic deceived him, David starts searching for information about her and discovers that Kartoff was part of her ex-convicts rehabilitation program. David goes to the online memorial site and sees that Vic is at the funeral. At the memorial, the police arrive and, together with David, they arrest Vic. During the interrogation, Vic confesses that she did everything alone to cover up her son Robert's mistakes. Vic reveals that Robert had liked Margot since childhood and had used the Fish and Chips nickname to speak with her for months. She tells that Robert knew everything about her but pretended to be the daughter of a cancer patient without money, whom Margot had decided to help. Robert needed to tell Margot the truth and return the money, so he followed her to the lake but was attacked when he got into her car. According to Vic, the place was dark, and Margot didn't expect anyone to appear suddenly while she was smoking in the car. According to her, Margot was startled and ran away while Robert tried to explain himself, but in reaction to her attacks, he pushed her off the cliff. Vic then threw the car into the lake, took over the investigation, tried to forge Margot's escape from home, and concealed the search area where she was. According to Vic, the only way for her to close the case for good was to make Kartoff confess to the crime in exchange for drugs and then kill him. On the day of Vic's arrest, David went with a police search party to the cliff, even though it had been 5 days since Margot's fall. Since there had been a storm in the middle of the week, there was a chance that Margot hadn't died from dehydration. The newspapers followed and broadcasted Margot's rescue. They lifted her from the cliff on a stretcher, and she managed to survive. The film ends with Margot signing up for piano lessons, and David says he's proud, and that her mother would be proud too.
So, did you like the video? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the movie, so please leave a comment below. Also watch other of our summaries of the best movies in cinema. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.